Welcome to Philosophy Briefs. I am Eugenio Saldívar. In this video, we'll consider Nicolas Dixon's essay, Alcohol and Rape. Dixon begins by considering how, in general, we can establish a person's guilt. He argues that there are two elements to consider: mens rea, a guilty mind, when a person commits an illegal or unethical act intentionally, knowingly, recklessly, or negligently. This last part is important. A person doesn't have to intentionally do the wrong thing to be guilty. If they are negligent or reckless in what they are doing, they can still be guilty of illegal or unethical behavior. For example, a man cannot simply claim that he didn't realize that what he was doing was non-consensual in order to avoid punishment. Actus reus, a guilty act. This is easier to understand, if not to prove. If a woman does not consent to sex, then it is rape. Thus, in the most straightforward way, we can establish a person's guilt by showing that they have actus reus and mens rea. Unfortunately, establishing this can be more difficult than it might first appear. To help us understand why, Dixon asks us to consider some case studies. Before we take a closer look at the case studies, let's pause to acknowledge an important point. While Dixon focuses on traditional power dynamics and heteronormative couples, anyone, regardless of gender, can be the victim or the perpetrator of sexual assault. That said, Dixon chooses to provide a straightforward set of examples to illustrate some possible responses to the problem of establishing guilt. He provides us with two cases that are meant to be clear examples of guilty and not guilty behaviors. In the case involving fraternity members, we have a clear case of both actus reus and mens rea. There is simply no plausible account in which an unconscious person can consent to sex. In the other case, neither person is meant to be impaired, and neither objects to the encounter, nor are there any unusual power dynamics or extenuating circumstances. So, there is neither mens rea nor actus reus. In the third case, we have a scenario which is meant to be unclear. Is the woman able to consent? Should the man realize that things aren't entirely as they seem? In short, in an ambiguous case like this, it is not clear who is responsible, if anyone. It is not clear who should be evaluated for mens rea if there is an actus reus. To address this concern, Dixon considers two possible solutions. First, he considers the idea that women should be responsible for themselves. They are adults who understand what they are doing and understand that drinking can lead to situations and behaviors that they would avoid while sober. So, if a woman chooses to drink and put herself at risk by doing so, it's on her. Men in this scenario are not the responsible party. They do not have mens rea, even if they are having sex with someone who is incapable of consenting because they are too impaired. On the other hand, we do think that it is everyone's responsibility to avoid committing crimes. In other words, if you think you might be about to do something wrong, it is your responsibility to stop yourself from doing it. If you aren't sure whether a woman can consent to sex, then you should not have sex with her, as that would be sexual assault. According to this interpretation, men are responsible, at least partially, because they have the power to prevent the assault. Finally, Dixon considers what we as a society should do about the problem of impaired judgment and sexual assault. He considers various ways in which it might be made illegal, but the problems introduced by a legal solution might be as bad as the original problem. So instead, he settles on the idea that we should treat the problem of impaired sex as a social ill, as something that can be successfully diminished by social pressure and education. This is of course not a perfect solution, but Dixon suggests that it is the best alternative. This has been a brief introduction to the essay Alcohol and Rape by Nicolas Dixon, originally published in Public Affairs Quarterly. Philosophy Briefs is a production of Eugene Zaldivar. For more introductory videos, please visit our website at philosophybriefs.com.